This is the apocalypse now. The difficult Duchess's worst nightmare has come true. Her response to her father's life or death drama.
Harry called Archie his African.
The ripple didn't rise from a courtroom or a royal balcony. It began quietly inside Westminster, hidden behind routine paperwork and late-night silence. Parliamentary insiders say a sealed procedural motion was filed just as the corridors emptied and the cameras powered down, carrying no dramatic label, no urgency tag, only the calm title, Administrative Clarification. But the few people who actually read the internal note instantly recognized what it really signaled, and that silent acknowledgement was louder than any public announcement.
Think so. William's very matter-of-fact, but let's...
The quiet verification inquiry had been set in motion, not public, not confrontational, but fully official, and the name at the center wasn't Meghan Markle, it was Archie. According to insiders, the process was triggered only hours after Tom Bower's now famous moment at a London literary event, where he leaned back in his chair, locked the audience in that sharp, knowing stare, and delivered a line that instantly changed the atmosphere in the room. The public, he said calmly, has never been told the real truth about Archie's birth.
Having a new mum, and tell us a little bit about baby Sussex, as we're calling him.
He didn't raise his voice and he didn't turn it into drama. He simply let the sentence hang in the air, heavy and unfinished, like an accusation still forming its own shape. And by the time he quietly added, "And I'm prepared to defend that statement," the impact had already spread. Within hours, British media ignited. By morning, American outlets had joined in, and by midday, social platforms had exploded into a storm of speculation, denial, outrage, and disbelief. But beneath all that noise, something else was unfolding, something quieter and far more serious. Because in the United Kingdom, certain claims don't need proof to trigger movement, they only need concern. And concern is exactly what reached Kensington Palace the next afternoon, not by courier or aide, but in a plain, unmarked package left at a private entrance. No seal, no return address, only a shaky handwritten message on the front. For the future of the monarchy, open personally. Prince William followed the instruction. Inside, according to palace-adjacent sources, was a thick dossier, no logos, no official letterhead, just carefully assembled timelines, photos, inconsistencies, and witness notes, arranged not as accusations, but as questions. And at the very top of the first page was a title that made his chest tighten: Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, a timeline review. What followed wasn't an accusation, it was something far more unsettling. The document didn't scream wrongdoing. Instead, it quietly exposed a pattern of misalignment, dates that didn't fully match, statements that subtly contradicted earlier ones, hospital references that seemed to shift depending on the source, and announcements that were quietly edited after the fact. Even the palace wording stood out, unusually careful, strangely vague, almost deliberately imprecise. Nothing in the file claimed this is false. It simply said this does not align, and in royal matters, alignment is everything. One section dissected the Portland Hospital announcement, its timing, its phrasing, and the striking absence of the traditional medical confirmations. Another examined visual inconsistencies from the pregnancy period, not as proof of deception, but as curious photographic irregularities that had quietly raised internal questions for years. Then came the detail that reportedly stopped William cold. A witness account, anonymous but disturbingly accurate, describing a small, distinctive physical mark on Archie, something never shown publicly, never mentioned, known only to those who had seen the child up close. William remembered it, a brief glimpse during an awkward family gathering years ago, unforgettable and impossible for an outsider to know. That was the moment he ordered a sealed internal verification. Discreet, quiet, strictly confidential. No leaks. No speculation. Just verification. But once a question enters an institution, it never leaves quietly. Across the Atlantic, Meghan Markle was already spiraling as headlines erupted. Tom Bower challenges Archie birth narrative. Royal inquiries reignited. Parliamentary sources confirm internal review. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Lawyers, advisors, PR strategists, everyone speaking at once, everyone urging calm, Everyone asking the same question she couldn't say out loud. How much do they know? Legal letters were drafted, warnings prepared, defamation threats lined up, but when Tom Bauer finally responded, his reply was devastating in its simplicity. The message was brief and unnervingly calm. Proceed as you wish. Discovery serves the truth. And that was the moment real fear set in. Because discovery is the one force that no carefully managed narrative can survive. What made it even worse, what pushed Meghan from anger into something dangerously close to panic, was Harry's silence. No statement. No reassurance. No public defense. Not even a subtle leak to sympathetic media. For 48 hours, he vanished from the conversation entirely, and people noticed. Commentators raised eyebrows, headlines questioned his absence. What kind of father says nothing? One asked, is silence protection or admission? Wondered another. Meanwhile, in London, the political machine was already moving faster than the press realized. Insiders emphasized that the inquiry wasn't about scandal, it was about constitutional certainty, lineage, documentation, precedent. No accusations had been filed, but questions had entered the record, and once recorded, they could not simply be erased. Back in California, the mounting pressure finally caused something to fracture.
A strange new rumor began spreading, and unlike many of the others, this one seemed capable of growing legs. Could it be that, as many have come to suspect, Harry and Meghan are lying?
During a heated, off-the-record exchange, as described in several fictionalized accounts, Meghan reportedly confronted Tom Bauer through intermediaries, and the conversation turned raw, emotional, and completely unguarded. And in that fragile moment, something slipped. Not a confession, not an admission, just a single unsettling phrase. The woman who gave birth. The sentence ended there, but it was enough. Because in stories like this, it isn't always the words themselves that matter. It's what escapes unintentionally. From that point on, the narrative shifted. It stopped being about rumor and speculation, and became about records, verification, and what happens when a carefully controlled story collides with an institution that runs on documentation, not belief. And somewhere between Westminster's silent hallways and a polished Montecito mansion built on image and perfection, an uncomfortable question began to form, not who is Archie, but how much of the story was ever truly complete.
Or just posting a lot more pictures. It has drawn a lot of attention to the controversies surrounding her kids.
And once that question exists, no amount of outrage can erase it. This wasn't about a child anymore. It was about whether delayed truths could ever be contained, and whether a monarchy built on continuity, legitimacy, and public trust was ready for what might happen if they couldn't. Under a sky the color of bruised steel, a private jet touched down at RAF Nordholt. Harry stepped onto British soil like a man walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. No cameras, no cheers, just a waiting convoy and the suffocating weight of history pressing down on him. He hadn't told Meghan, hadn't told anyone. For the first time in years, he acted alone. Ahead, Windsor Castle loomed. Inside, far from tourists and ceremonial corridors, Prince William waited. No aides, no courtiers. Just two brothers and a truth that had circled them like a vulture for years. William didn't stand. He didn't smile. He looked older than his age, exhausted, the weight of the crown already carved into his expression. Silence stretched until it became unbearable. Did she give birth to Archie? William asked flatly. Harry froze, mouth opening and closing, the boy who once hid behind his brother at their mother's funeral flickering across his face. Finally, his voice cracked. I don't know. Not for certain. That was all William needed to hear. He slid a folder across the table, and inside were copies of the dossier, the midwife's signed statement, timelines meticulously cross-referenced with Harry's own travel records, and one final document that made Harry's blood run cold. A preliminary legal opinion from constitutional experts. If Archie's birth had been misrepresented, his place in the line of succession could be legally contested. Parliament would have grounds to act. This is bigger than Meghan, William said quietly. Bigger than you. If Parliament concluded deception had occurred, they wouldn't stop at stripping titles. They would demand answers from the palace itself. Harry buried his face in his hands. She said it was the only way. She said they'd never accept us otherwise. William leaned back, pain flickering across his face. Did you believe her? Harry said nothing.
Birth certificate, it shows Archie Harrison Mountbatten.
Across the Atlantic, Meghan was beginning to unravel. News alerts flooded her phone in an endless cascade. Whispers of parliamentary inquiries, senior royals refusing to comment, legal experts openly debating succession implications. And yet, the loudest noise of all was Harry's silence. When her lawyer finally reached her, his voice lacked its usual certainty. Westminster isn't backing down, he warned. If this goes public, discovery will be brutal. Medical records, witnesses, everything. Meghan let out a sharp, brittle laugh. They wouldn't dare. I'll burn it all down first. But even as the words left her lips, fear crept in. For the first time, she realized she wasn't battling tabloids or gossip anymore. She was up against institutions that had survived wars, abdications, and scandals far greater than her own. Back in London, Tom Bower observed the chaos with clinical calm. He hadn't even released his final evidence yet. He didn't need to. The pressure alone was doing the work for him. When a reporter asked if he feared legal retaliation, he gave a thin smile. Truth has a way of surfacing, he said, especially when too many people are invested in keeping it buried. Behind closed doors, Parliament moved quietly but decisively. A small cross-party committee was formed under the banner of constitutional clarification. No headlines, no speeches, but the message was unmistakable. The monarchy was being examined from within. At Windsor, William stood at a window overlooking the grounds as Harry prepared to leave. You still have a choice, William said softly. Tell the truth now, privately, or let it explode publicly. Either way, it's coming. Harry nodded, tears streaming freely. I never meant for it to go this far. It always does, William replied quietly. When Harry returned to California days later, Meghan noticed the change immediately, the distance, the resolve. That night, after the children were asleep, he finally spoke. I'm done lying, he said, and her face hardened. You're choosing them over us. I'm choosing the truth, he replied. For Archie, for Lilibet, for myself. The scream that followed shattered the silence, raw and unfiltered. The perfect image had finally cracked. Weeks later, Buckingham Palace issued a carefully worded statement. No accusations, no names, just an acknowledgement that certain inconsistencies surrounding Archie's birth were under review. The world read between the lines. Markets reacted, headlines exploded, supporters debated, critics rejoiced, and somewhere in the middle stood a little boy whose life had become the center of a storm he never asked for. The monarchy didn't fall, but it shifted. Hard truths forced long-whispered reforms, trust was shaken, and slowly rebuilt. Meghan retreated from the spotlight, cloaked behind lawyers and NDAs, her Hollywood comeback fading quietly. Harry stayed in California, quieter now, focused on his children rather than the headlines. And Tom Bower published one final chapter, not in triumph, but as a warning. Power built on illusion always collapses, and truth, no matter how delayed, demands its price. The curtain fell, but its echoes lingered, proof that even the most carefully constructed fairy tales cannot survive when reality finally comes knocking. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to US King Master for more powerful and eye-opening content. Thanks for watching.